The Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.
John R. Miller. Welcome to the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast. For those who don't know, John is a singer-songwriter. Brand new record coming out called Depreciated, coming out July 16th, wherever you stream your music, or you can head on over to jrmillermusic.com. Then they got all these cool bundles of vinyl, CDs available too, all different variants of vinyl, which I love, like all different designs. One of them sold out already. A test pressing that you signed, right?
Yeah, I think those are all gone.
Those are all gone, but there's also cool swag. You got t-shirts, hats, grinders, koozies, all that fun stuff, everything you need. And I'm really looking forward to getting that vinyl actually, because I'm listening to the record all day today. And man, this is good stuff.
Man, thanks.
Oh, definitely. So how are you?
Pretty good, man. Yeah. We just had a long weekend out in Kentucky and still kind of in recovery mode, you know.
I hear you.
Kind of getting used to being out in the world again, you know.
That's right. I know it's weird even just going to like stores now and everything's kind of packed again. And
yeah.
I can't even imagine, you know, I've been talking to people over the past year on this podcast about, you know, getting back out on the road and how excited they are to do it. And now that they're back to doing it, they're like, it's kind of overwhelming. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah, it's an adjustment for sure.
Yeah. So where are you now?
I'm at home in Madison, Tennessee, which is just outside Nashville. That's the greater Nashville area.
Nice. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia, which is it's a lot closer to DC than it is to here.
Right.
I was actually born in Silver Spring, Maryland, but I moved to West Virginia when I was really young. And yeah, just grew up there in a little town called Hedgesville.
Yeah. Now that town or the town and the surrounding towns has like kind of a history to it, right?
Yeah, you know, it's really close to Harpers Ferry, which was the site of John Brown's raid in the Civil War. And I mean, there's just a ton of old Civil War era history. There was definitely a big area for activity during that period.
Sure.
And yeah, a lot of it's sort of lost in time, you know. It's kind of a strange little pocket of the world, but you know, along the highway there's a lot of, you know, it's kind of mall land and fast food and stuff now, but
sure,
it's real beautiful once you kind of get away from that.
Absolutely, man. So now growing up, your family wasn't musical. Where did you get your musicality from?
Well, I guess I kind of started listening to stuff that wasn't just, you know, radio rock and stuff like that when I was about 13 or 14. Some friends of mine kind of turned me on to some, you know, kind of punk rock kind of bands, and I started trying to learn how to play some power chords. My dad had an old nylon string classical guitar in the closet, and I started trying to teach myself through, you know, tabs and stuff that I could find.
Sure.
And yeah, eventually put a hole through the top of that guitar and put it back in the closet. But you know, I did get a steel string guitar and an electric guitar and kind of started a garage band with some friends, and we tried to play around town for our high school buddies and stuff, you know.
Right.
So it was just sort of kind of trying to kick the can down the road for a while when I was a teenager, just trying to learn everything I could.
Yeah. Now, in your music today, would you say you drew anything from punk genre?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm sure that stuff that I listened to back then was pretty formative for me. So I'm sure that there's still a lot of that just kind of floating around in there. But you know, it's definitely not particularly intentional. If that, you know.
Sure.
I'm sure that it's kind of a hodgepodge of all the stuff that I've enjoyed for a while, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I love punk. What were some of the bands that you listened to during that time? Punk bands.
Man, I got into a lot of the a lot of the Fat Wreck and Suburban Home stuff. I was really into like Descendants and Lagwagon and NoFX and
Definitely.
that kind of stuff. The kind of the more melodic,
Yeah.
real fast punk rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was sort of my bread and butter when I was a young skater wannabe kid.
Definitely. I still listen to NoFX to this day. I love them.
Oh hell yeah, man!
Unbelievable. So what was the first record you heard that really made an impact on, like being introduced to traditional like fiddle music and things like that? What was the first one you heard that was like, this is what I want to do?
Well,
If you remember.
yeah, I mean, as far as like kind of getting really more interested in songwriting as a pursuit, it was definitely I kind of got introduced to John Prine's music when I was about 18 or 19 and really started diving deep into songwriters after that and just fell completely in love with that whole craft. It was something that I hadn't really heard. It sounded like magic to me, like a magic trick,
Right.
So I that first John Prine record, and then the couple after that were some of the early ones that really kind of set me down that path. And as far as old time string band music and stuff goes, that was sort of around. And the first band that I toured with was a string band, and I kind of tried to write songs for that in that context. But we also play a lot of fiddle tunes and old time music, from West Virginia and North Carolina and the South, and just sort of really loved all that stuff. And we used to go to Clifftop String Band Festival every year in West Virginia and Mount Airy and stuff like that. And just really, I love traditional fiddle music. It's definitely sort of a big part of where I come from too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was listening to the record all day. It's such a unique sound, combining country, folk, blues, rock. So who are your biggest inspirations?
Well, aside from John Prine, I love a lot of the Texas guys. Like Guy Clark's one of my all-time favorites. Guy in Towns, and Billy Joe Shaver and Blaze Foley and Mississippi John Hurt and Doc Watson, like the finger picking guitar player. That guy. I love all that stuff. Kind of when I was floating around without a band for a while, that was stuff that I really looked up to as a way to sort of accompany the songs that I was trying to write, and kind of tried to learn everything I could from John Hurt and Doc Watson and everything. I still do. I try to learn their tricks, basically.
Yeah. So what was the process like making Depreciated? And would you say it was different in any way from previous records?
Oh yeah, this was the first time that I really went in, and it was very intentional the way we did it. I've been kind of writing the songs for a few years and knocking them around with the band. Most of the guys that I play with are in Kentucky, but we've been playing a lot of the songs for a couple of years, and I hit up Justin Francis and Adam Meisterhans, who are old buddies, but Justin's a really great engineer and producer, and Adam plays guitar and co-produced the record. And yeah, it all happened pretty quick. Like I hit them up and we kind of just did a little planning talk, and we set a date. We went to Sound Emporium, which is Cowboy Jack Clement's old studio in Nashville in January of 2020, and just knocked it all out live in 3 days, and did a couple little overdubs here after that. But we did it pretty, hit the ground moving,
Yeah. Remember January 2020?
Yeah, it's
Doesn't that seem like a lifetime ago?
A relic from a different world now,
It really does. It really does. I was just thinking about that the other day, like, wow, just the last year. How has the last year been for you as far as either creating music or not being able to tour, or mentally. Yeah.
Man, I think like for everybody, it's been kind of a roller coaster, and
Yeah.
I can't really complain. We kind of got to hole up and really kind of learn how to hang out at home, and started growing a garden and stuff, and learn
Sure.
how to learn how to bake bread and all, and cook more stuff. And I didn't really get around to, I kind of stopped writing altogether, which is kind of unusual for me, but I stopped writing until I mean, just a few months ago. I kind of picked it back up again and started trying to get into a routine. But for those first few months, everything felt so alien and so
So
topsy
true.
turvy. It just, I felt like I didn't have any place that I could anchor myself to write anything from. So I just kind of went blank for a while on that, and just started trying to learn fiddle tunes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I completely understand that. I mean, when this whole thing really started, I started doing puzzles for some reason, and I
yeah.
hate puzzles.
Oh yeah, we were playing
uh,
dominoes and stuff, man.
but there was some kind of comfort to it, I guess,
Yeah.
as far as like maybe like a childhood thing. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah, I think a
yeah.
lot of us, that's kind of, I've noticed that when I talk to a lot of people, and for myself too, like there's been a lot of kind of retracement to kind of younger childhood comforts too.
Yeah.
I started playing Super Nintendo again,
Yeah.
riding my bike
Absolutely.
just for
Yeah.
fun. So
I know, man. It's been an interesting years for sure.
yeah.
When did you, at what age did you start like getting out on the road? Like really getting out on the road?
Well, when I started playing with that string band, I was probably about 19 or 20 when we started working stuff out, and we didn't really start touring until I was 21, 22. Before that, and probably around that time too, we weren't really getting a whole lot of gigs, and we were just kind of getting started. So we used to drive out to Washington D.C. area like 3 times a week and go busking the metro stops out there. Just go out there and play fiddle tunes for 3 or 4 hours, and make some tips, buy a 6-pack and go home.
Sure.
We did that just kind of to kind of keep our chops up and get better at just kind of doing it. And it also helped us not really have to spend too much time working. We all kind of had little odd jobs here and there, washing dishes and whatnot, but that really gave us a little bit of money that we could put into the band. And then our first tour actually came out of that. We also went up to like New York City, and the subways and busk, and we go down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and busk in Market Square. And when we were in New York one of those times, and we just go up there and stay with buddies in their apartment and just work the subways, and a couple came up to us when we were just playing on the stairwell, one of the stops, and asked us if we wanted to play their wedding out in Seattle.
Wow.
Whole other side of the country.
Yeah.
We had never we just had a minivan. So we were like, sure. They were like, okay, we'll give you $1,000. And we were like, okay, cool. We could probably play some bars on the way or something. And so we kind of booked a little tour around that. And that was our first time really getting to travel. We drove all the way to Seattle in a minivan, and tried to work our way back via bars across America.
Wow. That's really cool, man.
It wasn't a money-making trip, but man, it was fun.
Absolutely. I'm in New York. I'm on Long Island, so I'm like,
right on.
I'm like an hour or so outside of Manhattan. But yeah, Manhattan's a crazy place, man. You'll get a whole tour booked just by going there. You'll never know what you get, or you'll get robbed. You never know what's going to happen there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mostly just kind of loud for a string band in those stations, but we made the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say some of the downfalls are of touring in your early on career?
Well, seemed like I could never really, I couldn't really keep too many possessions because I could never keep an apartment. You know, we'd leave for a month and I knew that I wasn't going to come back with rent money. So I had to,
Yeah.
you know, keep all my stuff in my car or whatever. You know, we definitely went at it with everything we had. But you know, you can really burn yourself out pretty quick. And when things get tough and everybody's broke and sleeping on floors, you know, it's the age old thing, and everybody starts kind of bickering at each other, and it gets hard to give each other space. And you know, when you're basically spending more time than is humanly natural in a very enclosed space, you know, working with people for months on end, like it really takes an intentional balance that you can only learn with experience to make that work and you know, make it work for everybody. So you know, those kind of things are pretty tough, and we had to learn a lot of them the hard way. But you know, we did. A lot of a handful of them, you know, aren't really doing it anymore. So
right. Now, do you work as well, or are you just straight up, you know, playing the guitar, singing?
Yeah, you know, I do take jobs and stuff. I actually just got done working on like a brick patio laying job with another musician buddy of mine who kind of does sort of general contractor handyman sort of stuff. He can kind of do everything, and he hires all of his musician buddies to kind of do the work, you know. So
right.
We just did like a big walkway, 2-month long walkway patio retaining wall project. You know, I don't mind working and stuff. I'm a little over being in busy restaurants. The money's really good, but it's pretty stressful for me. I'm pretty slow, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely work when I have the time and the bandwidth for it, you know.
Absolutely. Now, do you have any touring coming up?
Yeah, we're going on the road for about 3 weeks next month, July. We're going to be out from July 9th. I think August 1st is our last gig, and that'll be the first official tour that this band has been on, and we're doing to try to support the record and just see how it even works now, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just as curious as anybody else.
Yeah. I have nothing but, you know, high hopes for it. It sounds amazing. It even looks amazing. Who did the artwork for the album?
That is my friend Kelly Wills. Her design label's called Brainflower Designs, and I actually know her and her partner Josh from Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and they kind of when I was sort of bouncing around during one of my not really having a spot to live moments, they let me crash with them for a few weeks and became real good friends. And they live out in Oregon now. You know, they moved there a couple of years ago, but she does really great work. I've always loved her stuff, and she's been, you know, I've been really fortunate to get to work on a couple projects with her. She did the last record album art too, and you know, she's great, and she's just like super on top of it. You just kind of tell her, you know, this is kind of sort of the vibe that I want, and she just like starts going for it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I do designs myself, so I appreciate it even more, and it's a really beautiful cover.
Nice. She painted that one by hand.
Oh wow, that's even more amazing. See, I'm a computer artist. I don't even count.
Oh man, that stuff's like magic to me too, man.
When you can paint, that's a natural born talent. Anyone can learn the computer. Now back to the record. There's 2 producers on this record. Grammy nominee Justin Francis. He's worked with Casey Musgraves, and renowned guitarist Adam. I hope I'm saying this right. Meisterhans. Yeah. Meisterhans. Yeah. All right. Good. So how did this collaboration happen? How did you meet these guys and put them together for this record?
Well, Adam, I actually know from West Virginia too. He's been in Nashville longer than I have, but he and I played in a band out of Shepherdstown, West Virginia, many years ago called Prison Book Club, and he's a real dear old friend and my favorite guitar player, hands down, you know.
Yeah.
And he's just really intuitive, and he and Justin, actually I know Justin because of Adam, because they've been working on projects together for years. And so I kind of, Justin's sort of remotely done mixing and mastering stuff with projects that I've been involved with for, probably over a decade now. But this is the first time that we've really gotten to actually do a project like start to finish together. And
Right.
I've been wanting to do that for a while. He's an incredible engineer and a great guy and a great producer too.
Very cool. Now, as you said before, it was recorded in Nashville with the band in the legendary Studio A of Sound Emporium. Would you say just being there added any unexpected elements to the record, just being in that studio?
Man, that's such an incredible space. It's really comfortable and lived in. It kind of feels like a big living room with like, really incredible wood framing and everything, and
Right.
a lot of great, great, cool gear too.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just so many incredible records have been made there over the years. The late great Townes Van Zandt was made in that studio.
Wow.
It's a pretty magical place, and I don't know how much how much that matters, but man, it felt cool being there, and I think we all kind of got into just feeling good pretty quick.
Sure. I think it creates a little magic,
Yeah.
even the littlest bit, So what's more important to you, the message of the songs, or the feeling that the listener receives, or both equally the same?
Well, man, that's a good question. Well, I would say probably I don't know if you can necessarily extricate the two all the time. I would say that the feeling that the listener receives is probably the most important part, because that's
Sure.
kind of why you do it. I don't know the music really has to have a message necessarily. I think music really is just sort of feelings personified, I guess, for lack of a better term, or
Sure.
made tangible. So I think kind of at the end of the day, that probably is the most important thing. And it doesn't even have to have a message, but
Yeah.
to be cool. I mean, there's a lot of great J.J. Cale songs out there that there's no message to them, but they're cool as hell,
Right.
You feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I even asked that is because, like I said, I listened to it like 3 or 4 times today, and just like, in a row. And when I first listened to some, I don't really even pay attention to lyrics, I just kind of try to get into the vibe of it. And then as I listen to it more, some of the lyrics are kind of dark, kind of haunting. But it really has a cool vibe to it. I really, really dig it.
Well, thanks.
And I think both work just as well. I think it's equally beautiful. It's perfect. And I really hope people listen to it and hear it out there. One of your biggest fans, Tyler Childers, and I wrote Childers, like I wrote it out because I always said Childers. But before I did this interview, I was like,
tell him that.
Yeah, I was like, let me look up the pronunciation. And so I wrote it out the way I would say it. So do you have any kind of relationship with him, or did you ever work together, or will you ever work together?
Yeah, I've known Tyler for a really long time. He was kind of bumming around Huntington, West Virginia. I guess, man, it's been probably 10 years or so now. And was kind of on, just hanging out in the scene down there, and he was crashing on couches and stuff. And we played some shows together, and we've always kind of had a pretty friendly relationship. I'd call him a pal. He's been real cool.
Yeah. So now if you pre-order the digital album right now, you get 4 songs, right?
Four singles have been released. Yep.
Yeah. And then we got till July 16th to wait for the rest. I was lucky enough to hear it because, obviously I'm talking to you today. But I got to say my favorite track is Shenandoah Shakedown. So far.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
I mean, I love the whole thing, but I always got to pick my favorite, and that's
No,
it
that's
so far.
great, man. That's
So
cool.
what's the story behind that one?
That one, the town that I lived in for most of my 20s was pretty close to the Shenandoah River. It was actually really close to the confluence of the Shenandoah and Potomac rivers, and used to spend a lot of time just sort of trying to get into trouble out there, and kind of I guess the song itself is sort of framing the dissolution of a relationship sort of against the backdrop of the river there, which I used to just spend all my time on just drinking beer and eating mushrooms and stuff and floating the river. That was like most of my 20s when I wasn't traveling. That was kind of what I was trying to do.
Right.
But gets the best of you after a while, and
Sure.
can lose some things because of it. But I sort of wrote that. It was sort of a collection of vignettes about that time in my life.
Absolutely. So would you say now when you go down the road, it's going to be like kind of just, taking it easy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot easier than I used to.
Sure.
I can't keep up anymore. Trying to be a little more sustainable about it. But yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, nothing wrong with having some fun once in a while. Do you want to tell everyone out there where they can find you on all the social, Insta, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff? Is it all the same?
I don't really know how to find things on Twitter, but I can tell you that my Instagram is at JR Miller WV, and the Facebook is I'm gonna find it here actually. Facebook.com/John R Miller WV, and the website is just www.jrmillermusic.com. And if I knew how to access Twitter, I would let you know what
it's funny. I actually just signed up for Twitter because someone I was going to have on the show, it was like the only way to contact them. And, she actually said to me, "I'm sorry for ruining your life for making Twitter." And
Can't be that bad.
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it is. I don't know how old you are. I'm 40 years old. So
stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just like text messaging essentially, but I don't know what the @ and the hashtags are. I have no idea. I'm trying to get better at it. And if someone asked me that question, what I just asked you, like, where can you find me? I wouldn't even be able to say because like all my names are different. So at least you have like kind of, across the line kind of the same.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with it. I mean, isn't it kind of funny? Like, I think you and I are sort of in the similar age group where like we didn't like we're pretty adapted to the new technologies, but we're still not like it's not really in our blood. It just isn't
exactly.
We can make it work most of the time, but it still feels weird most of the time too.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, like the internet just kind of started getting going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I still remember the dial-up sounds very clearly.
Yeah, exactly. I think a few years after that, MySpace came out, and then MySpace went away, and then I was just fucking lost. But I'm trying. This is a big part of this, obviously. So my wife's pretty good at it, so I let her take care of it. But yeah. You have anything else you want to add, or are you,
feeling pretty good? I just really appreciate you talking to me this evening.
Absolutely. I appreciate you talking to me as well. And I'll have this out tomorrow. And
awesome.
And I'm going to share it on all the social media sites and things like that. So if you see it, share it.
I sure will.
All right. One question I like to ask everybody before they go is on a scale from 1 to hell fucking yeah, how much did you enjoy being here today?
Oh man,
so corny, but
I'd say double hell fucking yeah.
Yes. Double, yes. John, it was an absolute pleasure. And I really mean this when I say this. The album is beautiful, and I hope everyone gets to hear it. and I'd love to see you on the road one day.
Hey, thanks, Mike. The pleasure's
All
all
right.
mine. I hope to see you sometime.
All right, John. Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.
Hell fucking yeah!
It's the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.